we'll be using constant of proportionality in equations. We can use the constant of proportionality to write an equation or equations and solve problems. The equation will be of the form y, where the y coordinates are dependent of the equation. So y equals k, which is the constant of proportionality, times the x values. So this is our constant of proportionality, COP, or unit rate in the problem. So the graph shows the relationship between the distance that a snail crawls and the time that it crawls. From the graph, we can read the time on the x-axis and the distance on the y-axis. So time, we have 1, distance 10, for time 2 minutes, distance 20, 3 minutes, we can see the distance 30, for 4, 40, and for, let's say, 5, 50. The constant of proportionality is always y over x. So we can read from the graph 10 over 1, or 20 over 2, or 30 over 3 will be always 10. 10 inches per minute. So to write an equation, we use this format. Y values, so start with y, will be the constant of proportionality, in this situation 10 times x, where y is the distance or inches and x is the minutes. So the number of inches will be 10 times the number of minutes. From the chart, you can see that 10 times 1 minute will be 10 inches. 10 times 2 minutes will be 20 inches. 10 times 3 minutes will be 30 inches. So our equation works. To answer the question, how long does it take? How long means how many minutes does it take the snail to crawl 85 inches? So that is the distance. 85 inches, if I look at the graph, it is not showing. So I can't answer this question looking at the graph, but what I can do is use this equation. So I have 85 inches, substitute in the y place, because that's my distance, equals constant of proportionality times x. So now I have to find how long or how many minutes. Solving for x using inverse operation, divide by 10 on both sides, and the x value will be 8.5 minutes. So how long does it take the snail to crawl 85 inches? 8.5 minutes. Let's see this again. In the graph, we have the relationship between the amount of time that a backpacker hikes and the distance traveled. So on the x, we have time in hours. On the y, we have distance in miles. So to find the rate of change, or our constant of proportionality, k, we have the y over x relationship. So reading the points from the graph, I have here 6 over 5, or I can use any other point, maybe let's say 12 over 10. And any of those y over x point location that I can read from the graph, I can divide, and that will be 1.2 constant of proportionality, or rate of change, or unit rate, 1.2 miles per hour. To create an equation, we start with y. Y values are 1.2, the unit rate, or the constant of proportionality, times the x. So 1.2 times x, where y is our miles, or distance, and x is our hours, or time. So the number of miles will be calculated based on 1.2 times the x number of hours. To use this equation, we'll determine the distance. So that means I don't know y, but I know that the travel was 45 hours. So I'm going to multiply 1.2 times the number of hours, x 45, and that will be 54. Distance is measured in miles, so 54 miles. Let's see a few more examples. We have a map where on the x-axis we have the distance in inches, and on the y-axis is the representation in actual distance, in other words, in miles. So on the map, 1 inch, actual distance will be 30 miles. 2 inches will be 60 miles, 3 inches will be 90 miles. So that is the ratio of inches to miles. To find the rate of change or constant of proportionality or unit rate, it's always y over x relationship. So on the map, you look at the y value and have it over x. In other words, 30 over 1, I can read this point, so I have 30 miles is 1 inch, or 60 over 2, that's 60 miles, representing 2 inches, or any point will be the unit rate, which is in this situation 30, which is the representation of miles per inch. In the equation, y equals kx. So that's when we have the general form of the equation. Y is the number of miles, k is our constant of proportionality, x is inches. Then substitute, leave the y, substitute the 30, and leave the x. So every question that we have after that, we can solve using the equation. Y, the number of miles, will be 30 times x, the number of inches. So to use this equation, we'll determine the actual distance. Actual distance is miles. That is the unknown. On the map, if we know that there is 12 inches, so we'll multiply 30 times 12. So the number of miles, y, will be 30 times 12, which is 360. Simone wants to purchase a subscription to a magazine. The company charges $8 per year. So here is your relationship, $8 per year. That gives you already a unit rate, or K, of money and the number of years. To complete the chart and to draw a graph, so now we'll go backwards from words into pictures and charts. I have, let's say, the number for x is the years, because that is the ratio, so number of years. And then the cost, or the money, will be on the y-axis. So for x, we have number of years. And for y, we have cost in dollars. So to complete the chart, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, to see that pattern, how much is the cost per year, per 2, per 3, per 4? 8 for 1 year, then 2 times 8 will be 16. 3 times 8, 24. 4 times 8, 32. So the cost will depend on the number of years times 8. So that rate of change is our 8 over 1, or 8, which is the same as 16 over 2, which is the same as 24 over 3, and so on. So it's $8 per year. Using that chart or the relationship, we can plot 1 year $8, 2 years $16, 3, 24, and you can see how the points shape up in the pattern. 4, 32, 5, 40, and it will be a straight line going through the origin, which represents our proportional relationship. The equation of this relationship is y equals k times x, where we can substitute the k with 8, and that becomes general form of the equation, where you can calculate the y, which is the cost or the number of dollars, based on the price per magazine times the number of years. So the cost is calculated based on the price, $8, times the number of years. How many years? That's the question. So the years is my unknown. Would she get for $96? So the cost is 96. So in this equation, I substitute 96 for the cost. 8 is the price. The question is how many years? I don't know. So that is my x value. To solve for x, divide by 8. And that will be 12 years. If I read that question again, how many years of the subscription will she get for $96? She would get 12 years.